He had built his life on power and secrets, carefully controlled, perfectly hidden. But one night, a phone call shattered everything. A voice, quiet and broken, called him Dad, and whispered a name from a past he had tried to forget. Now, he's forced to confront a truth buried deep for years, a woman he once loved, a child he never knew existed, and a betrayal that could cost them everything. As danger closes in, he must race against time, not only to protect them, but to face the man he used to be. This isn't just a story about love or redemption. It's a story about choices, consequences, and the courage to stand for what's right, when everything is on the line. There are moments in life that don't just shift the course of your day, they derail everything you thought you knew. For Nathan Carter, it was a phone call that came just after midnight, when the world was quiet and the rain tapped against the windows like a distant warning. He hesitated before answering, already sensing something wasn't right. On the line was a voice, soft, nervous, and trembling. "Is this Nathan Carter?" The boy paused. "I think you're my father." Nathan's breath caught. Time seemed to stop. He stood motionless in the dark, the phone pressed tightly against his ear as his mind raced backward, back to the woman he once loved, Lily, and the choices that shattered both their lives. Choices he buried beneath years of ambition, silence, and guilt. His hands trembled. He hadn't heard that name in 23 years. A cold dread settled in his chest. Could it be true? Was this the past clawing its way out from the grave he thought it was buried in? Or was it some kind of cruel mistake? But the boy knew things he shouldn't have known. Nathan could hear the desperation in his voice. And just like that, the carefully crafted life Nathan had built, his business empire, his spotless reputation, suddenly felt fragile, hollow. All of it was about to be tested. The ghosts he had tried to outrun were no longer whispers, they had a voice. A name. A face. And now, Nathan had a choice: hang up and protect the life he built, or answer for the one he left behind. Nathan's heart was pounding violently in his chest as he stood frozen, phone still pressed to his ear. The words the boy had spoken were like ice, slipping beneath his skin and settling deep into his bones. "I have your eyes. I remember your smile. Mom used to show me pictures of you." Each phrase seemed to weigh heavier than the last, sinking Nathan further into a pit of disbelief. His mind spun, desperate to latch onto something, anything, that could explain what was happening. This can't be real. It doesn't make sense. The world around him felt distorted, as though he had suddenly been thrust into some kind of nightmare where the lines between reality and fiction were blurring. He wanted to scream, to lash out at the phone in his hand, to demand that the boy take it all back. But the hollow echo in his chest told him there was no denying it. Deep down, a long-buried part of him already knew the truth. No. He squeezed his eyes shut, pressing his fingers harder against his temples, as if the physical pain might stop the flood of memories that began rushing in. His past, the one he'd buried so deep, began to claw its way to the surface. A little boy with the same eyes, the same grin. A family that had once been his everything, before he had chosen to turn his back on it all. The coldness he'd forced into his life, as though shutting it all away could somehow make the guilt easier to bear. The voice on the other end of the line broke through his spiraling thoughts again, quieter now, more insistent. "I'm in Maple Hollow. I need to talk to you. Please. I need to know who I am." Maple Hollow. The name struck Nathan like a physical blow. That town was more than a place. It was a symbol of everything he had lost, everything he had abandoned. The town where the story of his family had fallen apart, where his choices had fractured his world into pieces that would never fit together again. The memories of his childhood, of a time when life had seemed full of possibilities, felt like they belonged to someone else. Someone who wasn't standing here now, a man who had become a stranger even to himself. He inhaled shakily, the air in the room thick with the weight of his thoughts. His hands trembled as he gripped the phone tighter, as though holding onto it would somehow keep him anchored in the present. The moment felt unreal, like he was watching someone else's life unfold in front of him. This is absurd. This isn't happening. It can't be. It's impossible. And yet, everything about the boy's voice, the vulnerability, the desperation, was so familiar that Nathan's chest tightened in a way he hadn't experienced in years. He hadn't even known how much he had missed it until this moment. The faint echo of a son's need for a father. The aching desire to understand who he was, where he came from. It all felt too raw, too real to ignore. He wiped his face with his free hand, the realization hitting him like a punch. What do I do now? The thought raced through his mind over and over, a relentless cycle of fear and regret. His fingers trembled as they pressed against his forehead, trying to push the mounting pressure away. I don't even know this boy. How can I? Where are you? Nathan blurted out before he could stop himself. The question was out before he fully understood the magnitude of it, the way it shattered the walls he had spent so long building. The boy's voice wavered but remained steady. I'm in Maple Hollow. The old house. You'll remember it. I need you. Nathan could hear the pleading in his voice. His instincts screamed at him to hang up, to walk away, to leave it all behind. But something deeper, held him there. I'm not the same man I was back then, he thought bitterly, but the truth was, he hadn't really changed. He had simply stopped being the man he was supposed to be. The man his family needed. I'm coming, Nathan said, the words heavy with finality. It wasn't a question. It wasn't an option. The decision had already been made the moment the boy had called, the moment his voice had cracked through Nathan's carefully constructed life. The past was no longer something he could outrun. No matter how much he had tried to bury it, the truth had found him. The call was a lifeline to a time he had long buried, but also a chance for redemption, however small. He hung up the phone, his body feeling like it had been drained of every ounce of strength. He stood there for a moment, as the rain outside continued to fall in rhythmic, steady drops against the window pane. The sounds of the storm seemed to match the chaos brewing inside him. Nathan didn't know what would happen when he got to Maple Hollow. He didn't know if the boy, his son, would even want him there, or if the past would be too much to overcome. But the one thing he did know was this: he couldn't run from it anymore. He couldn't keep pretending that the man who walked away from his family was someone he could ever be again. With a final, deep breath, he grabbed his coat and turned toward the door. The storm had stopped outside, but the storm inside him? That had only just begun. Nathan's hands gripped the steering wheel as he navigated the winding roads of Maple Hollow, the familiar sights of the town blurring in the distance. His eyes flicked between the rearview mirror and the road ahead, but his mind was miles away, caught in a tangle of memories that threatened to consume him. Each passing street, each faded storefront, felt like a cruel reminder of the time he had lost. The years, the guilt, the uncertainty, it was all coming back to him in waves, crashing against him until he felt like he was drowning in his own regrets. He had never planned to return. Not after everything. The small town had been a place of too many memories, good ones, bad ones, and the ones he wished he could erase from existence. But now, as the town drew closer, Nathan knew he had no choice. He had come to face what he had abandoned. Or rather, who he had abandoned. The house appeared before him, standing solemnly at the end of the long, gravel driveway. It looked almost exactly the same as he remembered, old and worn, the paint peeling from the walls, the roof sagging just slightly under the weight of time. Nathan's heart gave a violent lurch in his chest as he parked the car, his hands trembling slightly as he shifted the gear into park. His pulse was pounding in his ears, drowning out the world around him. This is it. There's no going back now. You have to do this. For a moment, Nathan sat in the car, staring at the house. He wanted to move, to step out, to walk up to that door. But he couldn't. The weight of the years, the mistakes, the hurt, it was all too much. He felt paralyzed, stuck in a moment of his own making, the air too thick to breathe. His thoughts spiraled. What if he doesn't remember me? What if he's forgotten? The fear gripped him so tightly, it felt like his chest would crack under its pressure. He closed his eyes, taking a slow breath. No. Stop. This is your son. He's been waiting for you. You can do this. Nathan opened the door and stepped out into the cold, the crunch of gravel beneath his boots the only sound in the otherwise still night. His heart pounded in his chest as he made his way to the door. Every step felt like it was taking him deeper into the past, into a place he didn't want to go, but knew he had to. He reached for the doorbell, his finger hovering above it for a long moment, unsure if he could bring himself to press it. What if he's not ready? What if I'm not ready? But before he could second-guess himself, the door swung open. The boy, no, the young man, stood there in the doorway, his expression a mix of uncertainty and hope. His eyes locked onto Nathan's, and for the briefest of moments, Nathan was struck by how much he resembled his younger self. It was like looking into a mirror that reflected a version of him he had left behind, a version he could never reclaim. For a long moment, they simply stood there, staring at each other. Nathan's breath caught in his throat as the silence stretched between them. The boy's face, his son's face, was etched with confusion, a weariness that made Nathan's heart ache. There was so much to say, so much to explain, but no words came. The knot in Nathan's throat tightened, threatening to choke him. Finally, the boy spoke, his voice soft, but trembling. "Dad?" The word was a question, hesitant, like a fragile thread holding the remnants of a dream together. Nathan's chest tightened at the sound, the word bringing back a flood of emotions he wasn't prepared for. Dad. He hadn't heard it in so long. Nathan swallowed hard, but no words escaped. His mouth was dry, his body frozen in place. He wanted to reach out, to pull the boy, his son, into his arms, but the fear of rejection held him back. He had no idea how to bridge the gap of the years between them. He had no idea what the boy had gone through, what had shaped him into the young man standing in front of him now. "Dad, is it really you?" The boy's voice wavered with disbelief, a note of hope and desperation clinging to every syllable. The boy stepped forward, his eyes never leaving Nathan's face, as if searching for something in him, some sign that he wasn't a stranger, that he wasn't some cruel trick. Nathan's heart ached at the sight of him, his son, grown up, standing there on the threshold of a reunion that seemed too impossible to be true. And yet, there was something so real in this moment. The boy's face, his eyes, they were unmistakable. This is him. It's really him. Yeah, Nathan finally croaked, his voice thick and strained. He reached out slowly, his hand shaking, his fingers brushing against the boy's arm. The contact sent a shock through his body, a surge of warmth and relief, but also a sharp pang of guilt. He hadn't been there for so long. Could he make up for that? Could they ever go back to what they had before? I'm your father," Nathan said, his voice breaking on the words. It felt so surreal, like speaking someone else's name, but he meant it. "I'm your father. I've come back for you." The boy blinked, the skepticism in his eyes melting into something softer, something more fragile. A flicker of recognition passed between them, and for the first time, Nathan saw it. The boy's lips trembled before curling into a faint, uncertain smile. It wasn't much, but it was enough to send a wave of relief crashing over Nathan. "I knew it," the boy whispered, his voice barely audible, but the conviction in it was enough to break Nathan's heart all over again. "I knew you'd come back." The words, those simple words, sent a rush of emotion flooding through Nathan. He wanted to collapse, to sink into the boy's arms, to apologize 1,000 times over for everything he had missed, everything he had failed to do. But instead, he simply nodded, his own voice raw and barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For everything." The boy shook his head slowly, the same faint smile still lingering. "You don't have to apologize. I just needed to know that you were real. That you didn't just disappear." Nathan's chest tightened, and he took a hesitant step forward, his hand still resting on the boy's shoulder, the weight of the years between them pulling at his soul. "I've come back, and I will stay this time. I'm here now," Nathan said softly, his voice steadying. "And I'm not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out together. All of it." The boy, his son, looked at him, his eyes still wide with disbelief but filled with something else now. "Hope? I don't know how to make up for everything I missed," Nathan continued, his words full of honesty. "But I'll do whatever it takes. I'll prove to you that I'm here for good." The boy nodded, a glimmer of understanding crossing his face. "I want to know who you are," he said quietly. "I want to know everything." Nathan exhaled slowly, the weight of the moment settling over him. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be perfect. But for the first time in years, he felt something stirring inside him, something that felt like the beginning of redemption. "I'll show you," Nathan said, his voice strong. "I'll show you everything. And we'll start from here. From this moment." As they stood together, the silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with the possibility of a future, fragile but real. And in that quiet moment, Nathan believed that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild everything that had been broken. The night settled around Nathan like a thick, suffocating blanket. Each step he took into the house felt heavier than the last, his boots creaking against the weathered wooden floorboards that had once been familiar, once comforting. The scent of the old, musty walls, a mixture of wood and dust, hit him immediately, pulling him into a past he hadn't truly thought about in years. The house felt different, smaller somehow, as though time had compressed it, trapping his memories inside its walls. Everything seemed out of place. The photographs on the walls, once full of life, now seemed distant, frozen in a time he could barely recall. The chair by the fireplace, where his wife used to sit with her warm smile and her ever-present knitting, was now empty, its fabric faded and threadbare. The kitchen counter, once cluttered with daily life, now felt like an echo of something lost, something irretrievable. His heart thudded in his chest, a rhythm that seemed to match the pounding of his thoughts. How did we get here? The question lingered, unanswered, in the back of his mind, as he turned to face his son. Ryan stood just a few feet away, eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and guarded caution. A wariness that Nathan couldn't ignore. For the first time, he felt like a stranger in his own home. He had always imagined this moment, the reunion, the apology, the explanation, but now that it was happening, it didn't feel as though there were any words that could fill the chasm between them. "I thought you'd be different," Ryan said suddenly, his voice low, but sharp. The words cut through the quiet, hanging in the air like a challenge. Nathan's throat tightened. He hadn't expected the accusation, not like this. He had braced himself for anger, for silence, even for rejection, but the hurt in Ryan's voice, it shattered him. "What right do I have to be here?" Nathan swallowed, his emotions roiling inside him. He could feel the weight of the years pressing down on him, each one a reminder of how much he had missed, how much time had slipped through his fingers while he had been too afraid, too consumed by his own mistakes to come back. But now, here he was, and Ryan was still waiting for something, anything, to make it right. "Where do we go from here?" Nathan finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question felt meaningless in a way. Could they ever go anywhere from here? Could they move forward when the past loomed so large, so inescapable? He wasn't sure. But he had to ask. He had to try. Ryan didn't answer right away. He just stared at Nathan, his gaze hard and unreadable. The silence stretched on, longer than Nathan could stand. His hands, which had once felt strong and steady, now seemed to tremble at his sides. "I don't even know who I am anymore," Nathan thought. The man who had walked away from his family years ago had been someone different, someone filled with regrets and fears. The man who stood before his son now, was he any better? Could he be? "You think you can just walk back in and make it all right?" Ryan's voice cracked slightly, but he held his ground, his eyes never leaving Nathan. "Do you even know what you've done to me? To us?" Nathan flinched. The pain in Ryan's words was undeniable. It cut through the facade he had built around himself, the one he'd relied on for years to justify his absence. He had always thought that he could come back when the time was right, that there would be some magic moment when everything would fall into place. But there was no magic, no easy solution. There was only the raw, jagged reality of a son who had grown up without him, a son who had learned to survive without a father. I don't expect you to forgive me," Nathan finally said, his voice rough with emotion. "I don't expect everything to just go back to the way it was. I've missed so much, Ryan. I've failed you in ways I can never undo. But I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere again. I swear to you, I'll stay this time." Ryan's lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. His face softened just a fraction, but there was still that wall between them, built from years of abandonment, from broken promises, from the silent hurt they both carried. "I don't know how to trust you," Ryan admitted, his voice small, vulnerable. "I don't know how to believe that you won't leave again." The admission hit Nathan harder than anything else. He had known it, of course. He had known that trust was something that couldn't be given easily, that it couldn't be expected after years of absence. But hearing it out loud was a punch to the gut. He had no right to ask for forgiveness, no right to expect anything from his son. All he had now was the opportunity to prove that he was worthy of that trust, and even that seemed like an insurmountable task. "I know," Nathan said quietly, his voice barely a whisper. "I know it's going to take time. I don't expect you to trust me now. But I'm not going anywhere. I will stay. I will do whatever it takes to prove that to you. I don't care how long it takes." Ryan met his gaze then, and for a moment, there was a flicker of something like hope, something small, fragile, but it was there. It was the first time in years that Nathan felt a spark of connection, a glimpse of the possibility of a future together, even if it was a future that had to be built from the ground up. "I can't forgive you yet," Ryan said, his voice trembling slightly. "But I'm willing to try. I'll try to trust you again." The words were heavy, full of the weight of everything that had come before, everything they had lost. But to Nathan, they were a lifeline. A chance. And it was all he needed. Just a chance. "That's all I ask for," Nathan whispered, his heart swelling with a mixture of relief and sorrow. Just a chance. And as they stood there in the quiet, the weight of the years pressing between them, Nathan knew that this was only the beginning. There would be no quick fixes, no easy answers. But for the first time in a long while, he felt like he had something worth fighting for again. The silence that settled between Nathan and Ryan was thick, almost suffocating, but it held a tension that neither of them could break. Nathan stood rooted in place, his feet heavy as if they were tethered to the floor, while the words he had rehearsed in his mind for years now seemed to fail him. His heart was a chaotic storm of guilt, regret, and a desperate desire to make things right. Yet, as he looked into Ryan's eyes, he knew that the damage wasn't something that could be undone in a single conversation. The years of abandonment, the years of unanswered questions, had shaped Ryan in ways Nathan could never fully understand. Ryan's posture was rigid, like a man bracing himself against the harsh wind. His eyes, once so full of warmth and trust, were now guarded, hardened by the pain of too many unanswered questions. His lips were tight, the muscle in his jaw twitching as he clenched his teeth. Nathan could see it, the fight within his son, the conflict between wanting to believe and the deep-rooted fear of being let down again. It was a look Nathan had never wanted to see, and yet it was the one that haunted him the most. "I don't know if I can forgive you right away," Ryan finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "I want to understand why you left, but I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know where to begin." Nathan swallowed hard, the weight of his son's words settling like a stone in his stomach. Every fiber of his being screamed to reach out, to take away the hurt, to make it all disappear with an explanation, but he knew the truth. No words would erase the years of pain. They were far beyond the point of simple explanations. This wasn't something that could be fixed with a casual apology or a promise to do better. The chasm between them was vast, and the road to bridging it would be long and painful. He took a deep breath, his voice trembling as he began, "I left because I didn't think I could be the man you needed. I wasn't strong enough for either of you. I thought that if I left, you both would be better off without me, without the mess I was." Ryan's eyes flickered with a mixture of confusion and disbelief. "But why? Why didn't you at least try to stay and fight for us?" Nathan closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the sharp sting of that question. He had asked himself that very same thing 1,000 times. But the answer was buried in layers of shame, of self-doubt. "Because I was scared. I was scared that if I stayed, I'd ruin everything. I convinced myself that I wasn't enough, that I would just make things worse. I thought leaving was the only way to protect you." Ryan took a step back, as if the words hit him physically. His expression shifted from anger to something more complicated, hurt, confusion, and a simmering disappointment that Nathan could feel like a physical blow. He clenched his fists at his sides, the tension radiating from him. "So you thought the best thing was to just disappear? You thought I'd be better off not knowing what happened? I needed you, Dad. I needed you to be there. We both did." Nathan's heart ached with the depth of Ryan's words, but he had no defense for them. The years of missing out on his son's life, the milestones, the laughter, the pain, were a reality he could never escape. "I didn't know how to be there for you," Nathan admitted, his voice hoarse. "I didn't know how to fix what was broken inside me. I thought if I stayed, I'd only make everything worse. And I was so wrong." Ryan's face tightened, his emotions warring with each other. He took a shaky breath, like he was trying to steady himself in the face of a storm. "I don't know if I can just forget everything. I don't know if I can just pretend like nothing happened." His voice faltered, his words weighted with the pain of years spent alone. "I grew up without you. I had to learn everything on my own. I had to make sense of the world without my dad." Nathan's chest constricted, and he reached out, but Ryan stepped back, creating space between them that neither could bridge easily. "I'm not asking you to forget," Nathan whispered, his eyes searching his son's face. "I'm not asking you to just move past it. I'm asking for a chance, to prove that I can be the father you need, even if it takes time. I'll wait, Ryan. I'll wait however long it takes. Ryan's gaze softened slightly, but it wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. It was a crack in the armor, a small admission that maybe, just maybe, he could begin to consider it. But that was all. Nathan knew better than to rush it. This was only the beginning of a long road, a road he wasn't sure he would survive, but one he was willing to walk for as long as it took. The silence between them stretched on, the weight of years unspoken still hanging thick in the air. Ryan stood, his posture tense, but there was something different now. A possibility lingered in the space between them. It wasn't much, but it was something to hold on to. And for Nathan, that was enough for now. I don't know if I can trust you again, Ryan finally said, his voice low but steady, but I'm willing to try. I'll give you a chance. But you're going to have to show me. You're going to have to prove that you mean what you say. Nathan nodded, feeling a lump in his throat as he fought to keep his emotions in check. I will. I promise. I'll do whatever it takes. As Ryan turned to leave, Nathan stood frozen, watching his son walk away, his heart both heavy and hopeful. The path to healing wasn't clear, but the door had opened, just a crack. And that, for Nathan, was enough to keep going. Because in that fragile moment, he had been given something he never thought he'd get again, a chance. In a world where silence protects the guilty and the innocent are left to suffer, one man chose to speak the truth. He risked everything, not for fame, not for revenge, but for a son who needed a father, and a woman who had suffered in the shadows. Because sometimes, the greatest battles aren't fought in courtrooms or on battlefields. They're fought in the quiet moments, when you decide who you truly are. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because the truth still matters. And someone out there needs to hear it.